Can you give us some basic updates for people who have no clue what's going on? And also, like, this is something that people out of the UK should also care about because of does this help us fight the result? Help us fight the Islamization of Europe or no? Like, what does this mean? So, give us an update regarding what just happened and why is this important? Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually prepared a deck. I don't know if I can share my screen though.
Oh yeah, you can. Let me actually allow. Wow. Oh my god, thank you. Allow screen sharing. There you go, Neil Bunny. You should be able to share now. So
Okay, so
thank you for this.
share screen.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I haven't done this, so need to choose what you want to share. Okay. Uh, duh, duh. Hmm. It doesn't have PowerPoint in here as a thing to share. Oh, that's the Chrome tab. Okay, window. All right. Oh, okay. Cool. I will share that. So can you see that?
Yes. Wow, that looks complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, what okay, what is it? Let me see. Tell us.
Actually, hold on.
Okay, that's better.
Started with the wrong slide. Don't know how that happened, but right. All right. Cool. All right. So I just wrote this, so I'm basically reading it. Okay, so I'll just quickly explain how the government works in the UK, and it will be quick. So the top tier of UK government is the UK Parliament in Westminster. It meets in the House of Commons. Members of Parliament or MPs are elected in a general election, which is every 5 years, or can be a shorter period if the current government calls a general election. So there's the map. So Rishi Sunak, the Conservative or Tory Prime Minister, called a GE, that's general election, in 2024 because the support for his government appeared to be not in the majority. Labour in this GE won the most seats by a large majority, making the leader of the Labour Party the Prime Minister. And then he formed a government out of the selected MPs by making them ministers of justice, home office, all the various things, like sort of like the cabinet in the US. This is what is called the front bench, and those Labour MPs not in government are backbenchers. The Tories won the second largest number of seats, so became the opposition. Rishi Sunak resigned, and that is standard that the leader resigns when they lose, basically. And the Tories voted on a new leader, and that was Kemi Badenoch, and she formed a shadow cabinet, which means she has shadow ministers for justice, home office, etc. And then also in that election, Reform won their first seats. That actually is when Nigel Farage became part of the parliament. So that's when I think they got 10, I can't remember the number, but it was a big deal that they got those seats. So the second tier of government is the devolved governments in Wales, which is called the Senedd, and in Scotland, the Scottish Parliament, and in Northern Ireland, it's collectively called the Stormont, and local council members in England. So they'll have councils all across England. So that's the Senedd building, and that's the Scottish Parliament building. So the UK just held the local elections in England, Wales, and Scotland, not in Northern Ireland. This election is an indicator of what the population thinks of the top tier of government, and it's sort of similar to the midterms in the US. So I don't know if I can minimize this little box, but it looks like I can, so that's fine. Okay, so Labour. It's the current UK government as of July 2024. Keir Starmer is the leader of the party, which makes him prime minister. The vast majority of the grooming gangs operated in Labour-run councils. The police, so basically the councils are what pays the police, fire brigade, the local services. So the police work for the councils, and the MPs would have had to have been complicit in the cover up of the grooming gangs. Everyone knows about the horrors of this government. I don't need to go into it, I don't think. So conservative. So they were in power from 2010 to 2024. Kemi Badenoch, again, she's the party leader. They won the second number of MPs, and that makes her the leader of the opposition. Labour didn't win in July 2024. Tories lost. That's really important. It isn't as if everybody loved Labour. It's something like 23% of the population put them in power. It's essentially Tories just stayed home, or they voted reform. And now, although Kemi was only in cabinet for less than 2 years prior to them losing the general election in 2024, she's still blamed for all the things that happened in her party, which is not actually fair, but she wanted to be leader. Now, reform, it is led by Nigel Farage, and he is basically the face of Brexit. A lot of the people may hate him, but Reform is one of the parties standing against mass immigration, woke crap, and the cover-up of the grooming gangs. Farage shuns Tommy Robinson and threw Rupert Lowe out for stating that mass deportations had to occur. Independents. So the independents that's an interesting group. So close the box again. So all the smaller parties, mostly left-wing parties, but also includes Restore UK. So that's the newest party led by Rupert Lowe, who has been very hardline about what needs to happen in the UK about Islamist extremism, mass migration. He doesn't treat Tommy Robinson like a right-wing racist thug. In other words, he's honest. Green. They used to be about being for the environment, but recently have become the de facto Islam party. And now they tried to have an Islam party, but the Electoral Commission of the UK deemed that was not a party. You can't have a party based on religion. So they didn't deem that legal. Now, strangely, after that happened, now the Greens have become the Jew-hating Gaza Party, which somehow is also the party of Marxists, people who think women can have a penis, basically the arseholes who overthrew the Shah revisited. So, and then there are the Liberal Democrats. They're basically Labour light, very anti-Brexit, a Gaza Party, which is not as extreme as the Greens. So they're sort of a little bit more palatable. They're not just absolute freaking nutcases. And so here is England. So this is what happened in the councils. So to break it down in a table, so you can actually see the numbers. So you have the gains and you have the losses. So Labour lost 1,496 council seats, which is enormous. Now, this is just my analysis. I believe that 155 of those, the gain to the Lib Dems, came from Labour. I think that 441 are the Green Nutters. And then there's the 24 without Restore, with Restore taken out. I think that those all came from Labour. And then that leaves 876. Now, where did those seats go? And I think they went to Reform. And then the Tories, you have to assume that the Tories, I'd say 553, 10 minus 10 basically went to Reform. And then the other remaining 10 are Restore. And the numbers pretty much add up to this. So I think I'm right. And that is extraordinary. That many Labour councils went to Reform. So of Labour's loss of 1,496 seats, 10.4% went to the Lib Dems, 29.5% to the Greens, 1.6% to the Indies, and then 58.5% to Reform. That is, it really is it's extraordinary. Now, this is also the challenge, so this actually was the news yesterday. So challenge Starmer by Monday or I will, a Labour MP tells cabinet ministers. So basically now all of the sort of the cabinet ministers are rubbing their hands together, like who's going to challenge him now? Because he has to step down. He doesn't have to, but it would be normal if he did. So normally a new government, they haven't even been in power for 2 years. Normally a new government has sort of a honeymoon phase where, you just, you give them a chance to put out their policies and, you're going to let them get into their roles, right? But no, the English voters have castigated this Labour government. And traditionally, the prime minister would be expected to step down in this situation because his policies have been rejected. That is what Rishi Sunak did. They had the local elections. They were terrible for the Conservatives. And so he called a general election. He stepped down. And that would be normal. Now, I have read opinions of politicos that Starmer would sooner call a general election than step down. I hope that's true. His challengers, Angela Rayner currently is challengers. So believe me, it's going to expand to a lot more people. But currently, the main ones that would be challenging him would be Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham. He is currently, I think he's mayor of Manchester. Now, they're both from the Manchester area. One of the epicenters of Islamic extremism. That's where the terrorist attack on the synagogue happened, where the people were killed. That's where the Ariana Grande concert bombing happened. A large amount of the grooming gangs are in this area. Oldham, if you know anything about Oldham is it's sort of in Manchester metropolitan area. It's like Greater Manchester. Oldham is where Raja Mia is from. Now he is, I don't know if you know about him, but Tommy Robinson talks about Raja Mia. Raja Mia has done like extraordinary work in uncovering the grooming gangs. So this is just, I mean, if they want to put if they want to put themselves forward, I think it would be an absolute joke considering they're like the face of the grooming gangs. This is Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner makes promises on Gaza in bid to win back Muslim vote for Labour. So this is what this picture is. She got just railed with that picture. So now this is the Welsh Senedd. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because a lot of people aren't really going to care about Wales. But it is sort of an interesting sort of situation where because there was another party to vote for, a nationalist party like Plaid Cymru. So this is a Welsh nationalist party. It's very anti-Brexit. It's pretty lefty, but it is Welsh focused. So it's not really talking about like how they feel about Gaza. We're just going to talk about Wales. And so Labour lost 35 seats in the Senedd, which is huge. Now, they have held the Senedd there for since its inception, since devolution, they have held the Senedd. And Labour has run Wales for like 104 years. So -20, that went to Plaid. And then -1, that went to Lib Dem. -2, that went to the Green Nutters. And then that leaves 12. And I believe that in addition to the 22 lost by the Tories, which definitely would go to reform, that would lead 12, and that gives you 34. So it's pretty basic. It's easier when there's fewer seats, obviously, to now have less going on there. So basically, the First Minister for Wales is Plaid Cymru's leader, but does not have a majority. So Reform UK, with the second most seats in the Senedd, is the official opposition. And I mean, that, I would never have thought that would ever happen, to be honest. Now, this is Scotland. So Scotland had, all right, so you see Scotland. So that's the breakdown for Scotland. Scottish Nationalist Party, or SNP, they're very anti-Brexit and they are fanatical. So the -6 probably went to the Green Nutters. Labour lost only 4, so they didn't get trounced there, which is weird. And then I think, 4 that went to Lib Dem. And then the Tories lost 19, that 17 went to probably Reform, and the remaining 2 probably went to Lib Dem. There's a little bit of history between the Lib Dems and the Tories, and that's the reason why I think that's probably what it happened. So the First Minister for Scotland is still SNP's leader. Reform UK made a respectable gain, but Scotland is still nuts. Everything woke emerged from there. For Women Scotland is who brought the case for the definition of woman in law to the Supreme Court and won. J.K. Rowling lives in Edinburgh, which is not a coincidence. They are so woke. So to sum up, don't expect much from Scotland because they're still deluding themselves on mass migration whilst tearing each other apart over Scottish independence, which is never going to happen, by the way. So that is all.
Okay, what are the consequences of this going forward? What are the main consequences that we could expect from all of this?
Number one, it's just a damning indictment of this government. It is quite clear that no one's buying anything about multiculturalism and diversity is our strength or any of that. People are looking at the mass migration. They're looking at people being attacked. They're looking at women being raped. They're looking at all of the things that are actually happening. They're looking at the cover up the grooming gangs. They're looking at all of these things, and it is culminated into reform. And I didn't really read the part about Restore. Restore was so new, they could only find 10 places where they could put forward councils, and they were all in England. They won all of them, and it was by a landslide. They didn't just win, they destroyed everybody else where they put someone forward. So essentially, Restore is basically reform light. They really are. Like Restore is other way around. Sorry,
The other way around.
it was Reform is Restore light basically, whereas Rupert Lowe, he's just not playing about. He is basically being very clear. These things have to happen, and we get our country back. And I think that people heard him, and if Restore had time to have all across, put people forward all across Wales, Scotland, all over England, if they had actually had somebody to put forward there, I think that it would possibly have been very, very different. I think
isn't having both Reform and Restore going to divide the votes that are in the UK who are concerned about mass migration and Islamization of the UK?
No,
Isn't having both
no.
Reform and UK not going to divide the votes between them?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I mean, there's another one called, what is it called? Advance. So Advance didn't have anybody put forward, and they've only formed the party, fairly recently, just a little bit before Rupert Lowe came out with his new party. And the thing about it is, as the leader Ben Habib of Advance actually said, was you couldn't put a piece of paper between the stands, the policies between Advance and Restore. And quite frankly, they don't have too much. They have a hell of a lot more in common with Reform than they don't have in common. I think honestly, I think the thing that people don't like about Reform is they don't like the way Nigel Farage treated Rupert Lowe. They don't like the way he treats Tommy Robinson. Yes, people, I mean, the thing about it is, and Tommy Robinson has made this point when they had the march last year, that they actually said it was just like, who's a Reform voter, and the crowd cheered. And it's like, yeah. And he's just making the point, is like, you're basically, these are your people, these are your voters, and you treat me this way. It's not smart, But the fact is that reforms have been around longer. They've had more time to establish themselves. And the thing about it is that under the leadership of Kemi Badenoch, the conservatives are definitely have turned a corner, and people are looking at them again as like, because she is actually fantastic. I love her. I didn't vote conservative, even though I really like Kemi Badenoch. It's just that I think it's just going to take her some time to completely turn around her party. Basically, what people didn't like about the Tories and how they ruled is that they weren't conservative enough. That
Yeah.
they wanted them to be more conservative, and they were not. And then and she's just unapologetically conservative. And so yeah.
I don't understand how you said that reform and restore their votes are not going to get divided between them. I don't understand how. Can you explain how not? How is that not going to happen? Because if they're
Because
so okay.
okay. So in 2010, the conservatives actually they came into power, but they only came into power propped up by a coalition with the Liberal Democrats. So they actually they ruled as a coalition government. So it was a coalition government for I can't remember how many years it was. It was a coalition government. But and so you can do that. You can have a coalition government.
Oh, so
And the fact
so you're okay. So you're saying they will divide the votes between them, but that's okay because they could rule as a coalition.
exactly.
Oh,
And do I believe that now, as a party, of course, you want people to vote for your party. That you have to do that. You're not going to be like, hey, you can vote for any one of us. It's fine. We all get along. They can't do that. It's their party. They want you to vote for them. Obviously, that's why they have a
right.
party, right? But the thing is, and if asked, oh, would you have a coalition? They always are going to say, no, of course not. Because they want you to vote for them, right? But the fact is, if it comes down to it, I think everybody looks from side to side and goes, those guys are going to join forces. There's no way they're going to let crazy a green labor coalition they're not going to let that happen.
All right.
They're not.
So Neil Benny, that was fantastic, by the way. We do need to go to the people who want to respond to this, but guys, given that we already been talking about this for half an hour, anybody who wants to respond to this, and I know you guys are not gonna, it needs to be like 30 seconds, and I think a lot of you are going to ignore this time, the 30-second rule, but I ask you to please try to keep it to 30 seconds because we do want to do other topics as well. Okay, so but Nelbany, that was amazing. Thank you so much. That was incredible. So hopefully we could go back to this as well. So who's next? And I'm going to time you guys, and you're going to hate me because I'm going to interrupt you after 30 seconds. All right.
First a sketch. Oh wait, check my time.
I'm fine with the timer. Just time me. I wanted to ask about reform itself because reform itself has had too much in line with the Tories. The Tories are the people that are rejected. The Tories they claim to be kind of conservative, but they let all the votes in. They had Bo Dade, who was of the Lotus Eater. They kicked him out in the name of Hope Not Hate, which is kind of like a communist organization. So I have seen Nigel specifically as one that destroys third parties, what I'm understanding from what I'm watching.
Thank you.
And reform as controlled opposition.
That was a question because I don't know if we could do. But okay, let's go to.
Question is,
because if it's a question,
reform a form of controlled opposition.
Okay, Neil Bunny, can you respond to that in like a very short response?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Look, the fact is that the conservatives, they did rule. They were far too left. They were not conservative enough. And there's the whole Boris wave of all these migrants that they let in under Boris freaking Johnson, who's supposed to be conservative, right? So everybody had a really good reason of being really pissed off at the Tories. They definitely did. And voting for reform was definitely a protest vote against them. Like I said, Labor didn't win, Tories lost. That's the key. Okay. Now, it is very good. I don't like Nigel Farage. I didn't vote for Brexit. Did I vote for reform? Yes, I did. I did.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but it was because of that. It's because I saw them as it is essentially to send a message that I am against everything that's happening right now in this country. And I think a lot of people did the exact same thing. But no, I don't think that it's a controlled opposition.
All right. Next. 30 seconds. Who's next?
Next is Noah.
30 seconds. Noah, you're already 5 seconds in. You're already 8 seconds in. I don't hear any audio. Do you guys hear audio? You're already 50 seconds.
Now I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yes. Oh my God. Yes, go on. 10 seconds.
Never mind. I'll just skip.
No,
on.
okay, go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead. From you go. I'll restart. But next time, prepare your mic earlier. Go on.
I will. Sorry. No, Bunny, thank you so much. I've studied UK politics for 16 years. I didn't think Scotland was a big deal because the SNP's been in power for so long. However, I thought Wales was the bigger story because of Plaid Cymru and reform. I think here will be challenged by Monday. I think either by Angela Rayner. I don't think Andy can be because he's not in Parliament and Keir blocked him from getting into Parliament
thank
before
you.
the election. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Noah. All right, who's next? Oh my guys, no
Richard?
more twos because we need to go to the no more twos in the chat. We need to get to other people. All right, Richard.
Richard, go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to mention before the last parliamentary elections, basically Labour went through a decarbonization where they deported blatantly anti-Semitic members of their party, many Islamists, but not exclusively, into the Green Party. And the fact that the Green Party made similar gains in the local elections basically tells me that amongst the British electorate, there's still a very strong anti-Semitic contingent. They're just voting Green instead of Labour.
Wow,
Exactly.
Excellent.
That's exactly
Okay.
it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. That was very efficient. By the
Thank
way,
you,
guys,
Mr.
sorry.
Efficient.
Yeah. By the way, guys, sorry for the time limitation. I just want to make sure we do other topics as well. All right, who's next?
Next is Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, so the UK, thank you again for Neil for that. It seems like the UK is following the same thing that's going on in the United States and throughout the West, and the United Kingdom is no longer defined or moving via a simple conservative Labour pendulum. In 2024, the Conservative seats splintered three ways, as you outlined. Labour took the anti-Tory national majority, the Liberal Democrats took the affluent southern anti-Tory seats, and Reform took the hard Brexit populist edge. Labour also took Scotland back for the SNP. That said, Labour had vulnerabilities on its left, losing seats to the Green Independents. And by 2026, the local elections, now what you have is the fragmentation is accelerated, with Reform taking old Labour and Conservative ground, Greens eating into Labour's progressive and urban base. And what that means real quickly with regards to the things we talk about is now you're going to have a harder time maintaining national will or even a consensus, getting a consensus around national policy, much less maintaining continuity of message and effort regarding policies to, say, help Iranian resistance. So the best thing you could do is to reach out to people in Israel, because they know how to sit there and operate in a multi-party system that is fragmented amongst 100 different parties.
I forgot to say time, but it's okay. All right.